duties as a journalist that questions properly and uses his ears to filter the real. And as the art decays by dilution, he concentrates the best again and again, exposing it in the print. Today's journalist and tomorrow's historian. He listens to share. Here is that necessary attempt executed again and again and again. This is the Power Right Show at S.STREET Media. This is your brother, the lone low life with the home sewn garment, the Boricua with the bill, the true and living God stepping and score, Sunni is Allah, aka S.STREET. And we're on S.STREET Media, the evolution of media, where every intrigue will have its own show, every incredible thought will have its own episode, and every timeless insight will be archived. And as I always say, this show is about my element of hip-hop, what I like to call the writer of art on art and science on music. The only show in history on this hip-hop writer element that I, a veteran of over 25 years, helped pioneer. All right, so we got past our intro from our brother Kevlar 7, Remembered in Perfection. That track is called I Call My Brother's Son. I always like to say that because I always like to give him homage, you know what I mean? Before we start here, though, loosen your pockets, though. I got 2 books out. The latest book is called The Real of 2020. It's an ebook. It's available. It's only $5 through my Cash App, Sunez, PayPal. You DM me at Sunez on IG or Sunez7 on Twitter. What it is it is not a bullshit-ass best of. It's not like, these are my favorite 5 records and leave out the whole fucking thing. Or you look at it and you go, oh, those aren't the records I like. Bullshit like that. Who cares a shit about what records I like? This is a complete 70-page analysis of the best musicians and artists in hip-hop music today, including my guest is in the book, bracketed in a revolutionary new system of ciphers that categorize the entire musical universe. So they're broken up into categories: upstarts, your traditional boom bap, your progressive artists, those foundations of the music. A whole bunch of categories that interlap and interlope, and it gives you, when you look at it, you're not just getting the opinions of somebody, you're getting a view of what this whole universe looks like. What do I call this era? The invisible renaissance. You know what I mean? We got past the 2000s, which I call the dark ages, and it leads to my book that's out on paperback, what I titled The Filtered Real. Essays from the Invisible Renaissance, you know what I mean? And this is a collection that goes deeper into the last 10 years. I've called the Invisible Renaissance into this decade from the 2010s. It's the only book that is not just covering all of this music, this great music that is out, but it also has my styles of writing, creative works that write science on the music, not just this beat's fat, this beat's dope, he rhymes fast, these rhymes slow, none of that easy shit right there, but real detail, real analysis. And that's out on Amazon, or you could DM me for autographed copy. Sunez97@gmail.com is the email. Quick shout outs before we go into our guests, though. There's so much to build on. We've been building off air, so many great things. Salute my brother DJ Toshi. I also host DJ Toshi's Classic Storm Radio. Our latest episode is episode 292. We had Beneficence and Producer Confidence. They made a new album called Stellar Mind, and Beneficence also released a memoir called Concrete Soul, and a very intriguing memoir. A lot of history, especially that Newark history. A lot of details about the artifacts because they're intertwined in there. Just a great read, and an independent artist, which is really one of the keys of this invisible renaissance, doing it on their own, how they did it, and the integrity that they kept. You know what I mean? You can't ask for a better read than that. You know what I mean? I read this shit in one day. I read it in one day. Sat down, I read it. And then, of course, our last episode, salute to A1 of A1 and Phonics. Great build with you, brother. One of the best boom bap MCs out there today, representing Medina. I know that you're in Virginia and everything, but you're still Medina to me. Nothing Less is the album. It's one of the best albums this year I've heard. And nice to hear A1 and Phonics after a couple of years. And last but not least, definitely not least, one of the great Boricuas. I want to thank him for what he did for me this weekend. My brother Chilo, one of the great MCs, not just MCs, but poets, authors, school teachers, and he's also done music with, Arturo Sandoval and all these people. So his diversity is incredible. It's great. And with that said, I'm going to segue to my guest, because when we talk about great Boricuas, we have one that's in the running here. And I'm in a phase right now, right? My producer probably sees it. I'm in the phase where I spent the last 10 years doing two things. I'll be braggadocious about it. My goal was to come back into this hip hop and prove that I'm the best writer out there. I did that. Anybody that's writing, you gotta, do something else. Keep that as a diary for yourself. That's why nobody's writing. And I'm telling you now, that's why nobody's writing, because I outwrote everybody. I made art on art pieces about this music. You know what I mean? And in the tradition that of the great Amiri Baraka, what he did in jazz, and inspired by the father of my element, which is Bones Malone. You know what I mean? So much so that a lot of people, and give us a background, not just for you, the audience, but even for my guests, though, because we're just meeting for the first time. That's how I got my L's in the low lives. I boosted 0 pieces in my life. You know what I'm saying? I run out of Macy's because the prices were too high, though, not with a piece. You know what I'm saying? The only thing I boosted was cassettes and music. I mean, that's my addiction. You know what I mean? And I couldn't fit vinyl because, I'm this tall. You know what I'm saying? The vinyl, you're going to see that big square in my chest. You know what I mean? But I was knighted as one of the lowlights thanks to Rudy Lowe, aka Rakim Supreme Shabazz. I got the name Skillustrator Low from Thurston Howell III. And it's because of what I do in the community, and it's what I do in hip hop. I'm saying that to say this, though. It has been such a struggle to write about Boricuas, to write about the Puerto Rican experience, where the first thesis that I ever had as far as writing about hip hop was to prove that Puerto Ricans were originators in hip hop. And now, as I come back, I can write for just the joy, because we got everybody in it. You know what I'm saying? We got the Asian brothers, we got all the Latinos in it, right? Everybody's in it. Nobody can stop us and stuff, especially with the independent route. But then there are certain people that are special. They need to be noted because they're great MCs, they're great artists, and then they also happen to be Boricua. It makes me, a lot, I can't even say proud. I have to say orgullo. I have to use the Spanish word. You know what I mean? Because where this MC is from, Spanish Harlem, though, is a special place of pilgrimage. You know what I mean? I am from Sunset Park, Brooklyn, especially in the 80s, a very old Puerto Rican neighborhood, but it was a quiet neighborhood. In other words, you didn't know us unless you knew us. You know what I'm saying? The rep that Sunset Park was gotten in other boroughs. Yes, sir. You know what I'm saying? We had to go to other boroughs and get the rep. It wasn't like Brownsville, like you fall into Brownsville, you die, the rep. You know what I mean? It's more like a Sunset nigga is doing something in the Bronx and shit like that. You know what I mean? And for us, though, the pilgrimage, and I'm talking about pilgrimage, whether you're doing street shit, hip hop shit, and in my case, trying to learn about my culture, about salsa, about my music. The first urban genre of New York City, salsa, was to go to Spanish Harlem. So before I made that great pilgrimage, because I love Harlem, people that know Harlem is a home to me. Teaching at the law school of Mecca the last 21 years. So the West Side obviously is in my heart. And going and meeting so many musicians and talking to and learning about salsa in a way that I couldn't learn when I was, as a kid. You know what I mean? So I have so much love for Harlem. And to hear a great MC repping it, and with that vibe, you know what I mean? The vibe, the aura, is my guest. I'm not going to prolong it anymore. UFO Feeve is my guest. Oh, man. Great. I had to give that elongated intro because this whole build is going to show people there are so many things that you're doing that are popular. Right. There are so many people that you are with that are known. Right. And you're one of the few that is in both worlds. You see a lot of the industry that a lot of the greatest MCs in hip hop today don't see it at all.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? They don't see it at all because they don't have to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They don't have to see any of it. Even if you were, Remembered Imperfection, my brother Sean Price, he dealt with Duck Down, and that was indie struggles, but he didn't have to step in foot in the industry anymore. He didn't have to do it anymore after the Duck Down started. The vantage point that you have is so unique, and people ask you about this all the time. I'm focusing on something else. The audience knows that I focus on the science of music. Why after this episode, you're gonna be like, I'm not listening to UFO Thief correctly. You know what I'm saying? I'm listening to him rhyme and I'm dancing like a whore because he's got great rhythm and nice beats, but I'm not listening to him as an MC's MC. And that's why he's on songs with greats like Rim. He's doing work with Terminology and other MCs. He's doing really more hardcore tracks than anybody out now with Nems. Fuck Your Life. You know what I mean? Which, by the way, was my favorite question ever answered. Right? One of my daughter's mothers asked him one time, "What's a Gunther?" And it was the funniest fucking shit. He goes, he just looks because he's taller than everybody in the universe. He goes, "What do you mean? Fucking Gunther, dirty bitch, dirty bitch." It was just the way he said it. It was just, it was just classic though. Nems, I was there. That was during the Nems Shazzy York's Chopper remix.
Yes, sir.
And the professionalism that Nems has.
Yes, sir.
Wow. He went in, did his verse.
Yeah, he don't play.
He did his thing, and then he was like, "Hey, what's the video?" He came back for that. I saw a video later, and it was great. But I want to give a quick background so people catch up. They don't have to do all the research I have. UFO Thief, Boricua, Puerto Rican, original man from Spanish Harlem, right? Tell me about that journey, because from the perspective that I'm looking at and growing up and covering the music, I was like, man, when is Harlem gonna get hardcore MCs again? Because they get so shiny, you know what I'm saying? Right. And I'm thinking, Dipset, they were hardcore, right. But they got too shiny, you know what I'm saying? Right. They got too shiny. And when you're making records, right, and you're dealing with lyricism, something that people don't ask, and I start from the back and go forward, right? What's the work that gets you to MC? Is it the amount of literature you've read? Is it the exercise, the analysis of other records?
Right.
What was the work to come up to say, I'm gonna be this lyrical MC?
Right. Well, it all started with my dad. He was heavily influential in my life as far as schoolwork, and he always my dad had this exercise with me where I would have to read a book and then write a book report about the book.
Well, not for school, just
not for school. Just for him.
Word is bond. This is what my old earth, Remembered Imperfection, my mom Maria, she used to make me do. And look, I'm a writer. You know?
So my dad used to make me do that. Whenever he felt like it, he would just pop up on me like, yo, read this book right here, and let me know the characters, what's the main story, what's, you know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna check up on that.
Wow.
And if I ain't have it, then I'll be in, some deep trouble. But I remember it being summertime, and I'll be getting dressed to go play ball. He'd be like, "Where you going?" Like, "I'm gonna go downstairs." He'd be like, "You read something?" He'd be like, "Nah, not yet." He'd be like, "You ain't going downstairs until you read."
You gotta read before you can do anything else.
Like, yo, go check that book out over there. It's a little 30 pages. Read, 30 pages, and you can get out of here. I used to sit down, you know what I'm saying? I used to sit down and read. And my cousin, let's say my cousins 10 in the morning, they wait for me. I wouldn't come outside till about noon, you know what I'm saying? Noon 30. And they'd be like, "Damn, bro,
he's gonna test you on a fucking obscure page, right?"
Nah, yeah. He's gonna ask me. He's gonna ask
Make sure,
No. My pops is that pops like my dad is Tony from TK.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So he was in his granddad as well. So when he was around, he just tried to keep me sharp. You know what I'm saying? Like, just bring back knowledge from wherever he was at, and just test me on different things, like making sure I was reading and you know, because he wasn't able to like, it was a point in my life, maybe like in junior high school, middle school type thing where he, TK reunited and they started going back on the road and stuff. So, you know, from like elementary when it was popping and then, you know, they died down a little bit. And then during middle school, they picked that ball up again and they was on fire and I just was in the streets. So he would come back and like see me and my grandmoms and tell him, yeah, yo, he been outside, you know what I'm saying? He'll come upstairs and then he'll try to line me back up. You know what I'm saying? Like school, so school, this, that, and the third, and give me obligations and things to me. So that started the growth of I would say like the interest in being intricate in writing. You know, having like
and you're throwing bars right here now.
Yeah, having to be because I couldn't read the back of the book and just write what was, you know, I couldn't write a forward,
real details,
be descriptive of what was going on. And so that translated into school. You know, I would be in school and social studies, history, all that stuff was awesome to me. Like, you know, a teacher telling you go in the book, read the chapter and then write about it. I was already like, oh yeah, I can do that. You know what I'm saying? So that was first love, reading. And I also used to, I didn't know what a lot of things meant. You know what I'm saying? And there wasn't nobody to tell me. You know, my dad would be so like when people would say stuff, I had like how do you say it? An affection with like going into the dictionary. You know what I'm saying? And just like seeing what things meant. So when people would say them, you know, when older people would speak, I was already a little advanced in the conversation. I understood bigger words. So that was pretty much it. I make my daughter do this now as well. Whatever her school words are, we add some more, and then she has to, you know, she does her definition, her sentences, and I make her, you know, do the how many syllables are in this, you know what I'm saying? All that kind of stuff. So, you know, it kind of started with that as far as coming into writing. But becoming a dope MC, that's a whole different, that came from experience. I had an older cousin who was in the street, and I used to write, you know, my dad was in the music, and he would get a lot of CDs and stuff from like artists submitting them beats or like rap artists and stuff. So I would get like, even though he wasn't, he didn't have any rap artists, he had another Latino singer by the name of Jay Quest. And Jay Quest was super popular. He had a song on the Jasic Lyrics soundtrack. So we were working with like Rodney Jerkins and all these guys early. Like Rodney Jerkins was like 17, 18, and they like Jay Quest was the first artist. And I remember being in the studio with Method Man. But I say that to say, when I started writing music, I immediately started writing music. Like I knew how to write bars and I knew hooks because as a youngin'.
Right. Because you know what's interesting, and we'll see it in some of the records when we get into detail. You know, I mean, the recent records, there's a lot of melody in your verse. You know what I mean? It has a real melodic quality.
It's not
so
like
it's
the
very
modern day melodic, but it's still like, you know, it's not like straight MC and like where it's like a Run DMC fundamental MC. It comes from like I said, I had an older cousin who was in the street. Before I lose my train of thought, I digress. I had an older cousin who was in the street, and he always used to like bust my chops. Like, yo, you think you're nice? Because I used to write songs. So I always thought I was advanced. Like I would have hooks and stuff. So when I would meet artists, I would be like, yo, you ain't got no hooks? And they would be like, nah. I'll be like, I'll give you a hook. You know what I'm saying? But this was the time where battling in the street was it. You know, shout out to Dizza, Smoking Numbers, shout out to T-Rex, shout out to the Great One, shout out to all these guys that were in the street that like started the battle rap culture, you know, in Harlem. They was crossing over to the east side as well. So they was coming to see us on the east side 30 deep, you know, because when the dudes from the west side came from the east side, they kind of knew it wasn't like, like you said, like, you know, Spanish on the east side, they're not playing. Like, we got to go over there. So when they would come to the projects, we didn't have many, you know, it wasn't rappers. It was like, yo, it was like maybe 3 of us who rap. So it don't matter who showed up to the block to rhyme against.
You're stuck battling.
We stuck. This could be like the top tier dude that his name is buzzing in the street, like you heard about him, T-Rex or whoever it was. And if he showed up in Johnson or Jefferson and they were like, yo, we came to battle, and we were out, you know, I was outside particularly. I was one of the people that was like, yo, you know what I'm saying? So my first battle, I got my head chopped off. My cousin was like, oh, you think you nice? I got somebody. So I was like, go get him. And at this time, I started writing verses. Like I was writing rhymes, like aimed at everybody, you know, freestyle verses,
right.
like stuff that I could just have, be outside because people were showing up. So my cousin was like, yo, I got somebody for you. So I was like, go get him. And it just so happened he brought him back on like the most lit day in the projects. Like everybody was outside. Grandmas was in the window. Everybody you can imagine was outside, bro. It was one of those nights where like we was just chilling. I had my little girlfriend outside, you know what I'm saying? And my cousin I see my cousin coming down the block with this fat kid, this real overweight Spanish kid, bro. He had braids and they were just walking. And my cousin walked up to me. He was like, you ready? And I was like, you know, I was taken by surprise. I thought I was ready, but I was not. You know, at the time, in hindsight, I was not. But at the moment, you know, I was just like, oh, you want to do this right now? Let's go. So we walked to like the middle of the block where everybody was at. We congregated. It was a crowd. And the boy could just, you know, I went first. I did my little thing, but the boy just proceeded to just go crazy on me. You know what I'm saying? And like, I knew he was going crazy when I heard like my people behind me, like, oh, I heard like the homies, I heard like my cousin voice, like not my older one that brought him, but like the cousins that were with me, like, oh, and I'm looking back like, oh man. And then I'm looking at my older cousin, and he's like you see, like he got it on his face, like,
you got
like he don't got champions, like he's not happy or nothing. He's just like you see. So once
but that gave you the fire. That didn't detract you.
Oh my goodness, bro! I ain't come outside. Maybe I don't even remember, you know, exactly, but I remember, boy. Holy cow! I just started going crazy. Like I just went upstairs and it was just like, yo. Screw this. What happened was I was going into 9th grade. This is exactly what happens when I was going into 9th grade, and my dad had started a business in East Newburgh, upstate, somewhere around there in that area. We moved up there, and I ain't have no friends. This is exactly, you make it remember, Twin. You taking me right back to the moment. I've spoken about it, but I've never tapped in. It was definitely that 9th grade year. I moved upstate and I didn't have nobody. My dad took me up there and it was just me and him. So I would just be in the crib, blacking out.
Just writing, practicing.
But I was hiding it from him because, you know, my dad was super like, you know, during this time of living with him, I've never fully lived with him. You know what I'm saying? It's always been me, grandma, and him. So, like, when he would come and stay for the few weeks or whatever he was staying, my grandma always was like, I'm like the baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm the firstborn grandchild. So my grandma was like, yo, you know, hands-off policy. You know what I'm saying? Nobody could say nothing to me. So when I was with him upstate, it was straight like hell. You know what I'm saying? He was like, got to clean the room, do 100 push-ups. You know what I'm saying? He's teaching me how to spar. I'm bouncing on the trampoline for 3 minutes, 3 minute round, jumping on the track, 14, 15. I'm a little overweight, and you know, so I'm crying. I don't want to be doing this shit. You know what I'm saying? He got me taking out the trash, cleaning around, because we lived in the house. He had rented this house, so I had to do the yard work. You know what I'm saying? So he was pulling me through it, and I just was rhyming. I just was like, this was the time I became infatuated with one of the kids in this high school that I was cool with had gave me actually forgive me. K7 was working at 197 at this time doing late nights, and DJ he was getting all the mixtapes. He gave me a DJ Absolute mixtape, and I'll never forget because I remember the asshole, and it had Beanie Siegel's Crew Love, Beanie Siegel, Memphis Bleak joint, the first song Beanie Siegel ever recorded with Rockefeller. And it had that, 1,000 bars, and then What's a Thug About? So it was like 3 Beanie Siegel joints back to back. And I just remember being in love with him. Like my dad didn't have a problem with me listening because my dad's a hip hop head, you know what I'm saying? But my dad was like, yo, who's this guy? Because I used to, Siegel was calling himself Beanie Mac. So I used to think it was the reggae artist, Beanie Man. You know, because I didn't know. So I'm thinking like I just seen the beanie on the, you know, the font was real messed up on the mixtapes back then, you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I just seen Beanie Mac. So I'm thinking it's Beanie Man, the reggae artist. And so I'm like, oh, he's nice. Like I'm telling my dad, like, you gotta hear Beanie Man. So he's like, he's listening, he's like Beanie Mac. He's like, it's Beanie Mac. I'm like, Beanie Mac. So I'm like, oh, so now he's down with Jay-Z, you know what I'm saying? So that infatuation with listening to Beans at that time just grew me to start loving more of the Philly MCs. I became in touch with like the Headshot DVDs, all that thing that was going on in the underground of Philly at that exact time. Like I knew Beans was beefing with major figures. I remember them calling the Boule Kev, not Boule Kev, forgive me, I'm forgetting his name. I'm a little fried. The DJ from Philly, I remember them calling
Cosmic
Kev. I remember them calling up Cosmic Kev, arguing. I was infatuated with Philly rap at that time, and their lyricism was just better than anything that was out. You know what I'm saying? It just was crushing everything. Like, you know, so when Beanie got into it with Jada, I was like, oh wow, Jada's on the ropes. You know what I'm saying? I was one of those, like, oh, it's going, yeah, I was like, oh, it's going down, you know what I'm saying? Because like we alluded to off the track, off air, I had friends and I was in touch with the Philly, so I knew, I was infatuated with the fact that Beans was a street dude, rhyming. So that's kind of like what motivated, because I was around nothing but street dudes. Not my immediate circle of friends, we were kids, but like, the men that were around my dad and myself were just straight street. Like even though my dad was in, you know, a group, when we went to PR, my cousin was a kingpin. You know what I'm saying? Like it was no joke. We would go to PR. I remember when my cousin got murdered, we couldn't go to PR for a little while. You know what I'm saying? Because it was crazy. So like my family in PR is like big time in Guayana, you know what I'm saying? So we was out heavy, and I remember my dad with the, you know, hindsight, the dudes that was getting these like 7 M3s, we driving through from San Juan to Guayana, you know what I'm saying? We going down the Montañas and M3s, they listening to Biggie. It's like we with the, you know, now it's like a young kid's dream, but I was with the dudes, you know what I'm saying? So it was always like, oh, he ain't real. Like that was my attitude. Like, oh, he ain't real. Like, you crazy? You around the real ones. You know what I'm saying? Like, we rapping like that, he ain't real. You crazy? Like, so when I realized like Beans was that, it was like, oh my God, this dude is like.
Now the thing is, your work ends up talking about the street life. It chronicles it. It gives detail that a lot of people can't give.
Right.
I mean, it's just there's no doubt about that. You have a respectable upbringing. You know what I mean? Like, what leads you to the streets? Because a lot of times, you know, people don't understand that like this culture of hip hop, you're learning it in the street. So you're not just getting one good thing in the street, culture, arts. You're getting everything, and that's just the way the life ends up being.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I'm gonna be honest, twin. I didn't know we were in the streets. I didn't know we were poor, bro. Like I thought that's just what that's how everybody was. Like I'm from the projects. Like there's like in my hood we call them up the block, like side block dudes that live in the tenements and all that. But like we from the projects, we don't really function with what's going on outside. Like if you come out my building, you facing into the projects. So even if I come out my building, I'm walking into going into the projects. I'm not coming out on First Ave. I'm facing the middle of the projects. You know what I'm saying? So I really didn't know what was street stuff until like I guess like I started getting in trouble for it. You know what I'm saying? Like when I brought two phones to school and like they took me to the principal's office is when I was like, I'm really in there, like, what's the big deal? You know what I'm saying? Like, and they're like, why do you have 2 phones? You're like a drug dealer. And I'm like, drug dealers have 2 phones. Like, no wonder my dad got, you know what I'm saying? They painting it to me as I'm living, I'm just an innocent kid in the projects knowing what's going on, but I don't know I'm in street shit. You know what I'm saying? I just think everybody's doing whatever they do. So as I noticed, like, it was in my family, my mom's was it, you know, as you grow the store, you know, because you might be in the streets and you're like, oh, that's Tone's son. Oh, that's Nell's son, man. You know, the toughest guy that you just seen him cut somebody's face last week or let his gun off and he see you outside. You're like, yo, what's up, little boy? Just
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you like, damn, they doing like that street shit. Like, we look at it like they survival, they the survivors. You know what I'm saying? They the ones who's outlasting everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Is how I kind of looked at it. So when I say that to answer your question, I realized I was doing street stuff when like I became more of a man and it started like feeding my family. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, this is not the way to go, but this is what we do here. This is how we get it. And that's when I started like going out of town and stuff. I started realizing like, yo, it's better to do music. You know what I'm saying? Like for me, because I would be out of town and I would have music. But I've always been like, I've never like, I don't pitch myself. You know, I'll be like, yo, I'm Feed. Like, you don't gotta ask me if I'm a rap before Feed, you know, I'm Mook. You know, I was Mookie, like, yo, I'm Mook. So I was never asked if I'm a rapper. So it was always like, yo, you rap? I'd be like, yeah, I got some music. You know what I'm saying? But it was never like, yo, I'm a rapper, check my music out. So if we be making a trip out of town, twin, and you in the car with us, and you know, and you be like, yo, guys, put that joint on you did last week, and you didn't know I rapped, and you in the car, you like, you rap? right. Meanwhile, we going to do what we going to do. So a lot of my relationships, even in the music industry, people know me from seeing me in the streets first. You know, a lot of people, you know, I used to be in offices doing street stuff. You know what I'm saying? Even you
know what's interesting is that your early records, they're all, it's funny you said that because they're very introspective. And you very rarely see an artist's first work so introspective. You know what I mean? Because it feels like these are your first records and you're questioning whether you should make these records or continue with this. You know what I mean? So they're like open, you know, they're like open journals.
I'm at in life. Right. That's absolutely, that's I remember having a talk with respect to Matthew Ragazzino, man, early on, like 2013 or something. And we had that talk and he was like, yo, I just don't rap about nothing I don't got. I just ain't into rapping about cars and nothing like that's it. And that kind of like put me on course to like be like, yeah, you're right. Like I could write the stuff I live about is interesting enough, you know, because you don't really be thinking like, it's like, yo, well, I want to rap about my mans. I don't want to talk about that. You know, those are my friends. But then it's like, yo, I don't have to directly talk about that person doing it. I could just talk about the experience and what you gain or lose from doing that. That's real life. That's not fronting, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I'd rather tell you about that than an SLS 500, SL 550 Mercedes, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't really care about that, you know what I'm saying? So that kind of was like early on having talks with like experienced MCs like Matthew and a bunch of other dudes who just didn't follow through. You know, it was always cooler to like, yo, cool, right, what you rap. Right, what you doing.
You know, that's interesting because a lot of MCs don't admit that they talk to other seasoned MCs on what to share with the audience.
Right.
Because when you rhyme, you know, and you know, I joke around with producers all the time, people like that. There are great MCs that talk down to us.
Of course.
You know, they're down to us. Like, and I always name because I think he's incredible. He's one of the greats, a staple of this era. You know, Rock Marciano, his whole thing is that he talks down, you know, he spits on us. We're all custies, though. Yeah, we're all custies, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, we smoke, you know, his music crack pipe, you know what I'm saying? And we enjoy that because there's so many things that he does, but like, you have this way of speaking directly to the listener. You really speak at the listener, even as the braggadocios maybe above or like, you're not on this level, you know what I mean? You haven't done this, but it's never down to us though. And I'm not saying that that's the way you have to do it. I'm saying that it's very endearing when it is.
Now everybody got their own flavor twin, and much respect to Rock because he's a pillar of this
absolutely
and stuff. What I do is more of like you said, introspective, but I'm of an age, you know, where a lot of these dudes are, how can I say it and still be respectful, because this isn't directed towards anyone in particular, but I think I've been in the streets a lot longer. Like I haven't had success yet in hip hop. You know, like I'm not in LA recording albums with art. You know, I'm not doing that. I don't even go to Miami to see Joe. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just not into like the whole, like I'm still in the streets. It's like, you know, when people compare me to you know, or Joe or somebody be like, yo, he's the Nas. It's like, yo, the difference is Nas left Queen Bridge at 19.
Right, it's a much different story.
You know what I'm saying? Like I never left Jeff.
Right.
We can go to Jeff right now.
And you know, it's comparisons like that that also make me want to build with you, because my producer knows, and people that read my stuff, they know I never compare anyone to anyone else.
Right.
Because it sets up a false equivalence. You know what I mean?
Then you get the
right. You know, characterization and shit like that. You know what I mean? I want to ask you two questions before we get into the real details of this music real quick. I spoke about Harlem and what it means to me. You know what I mean? You were recognizing that you were dealing in street life, but what about, when did you recognize when you're making this music that, yo, not only am I one of the few, and to me, and I can damn well prove it, really the best MC representing Spanish Harlem now, but you are representing an iconic neighborhood in the world, not just, you know, a section, because when we talk about some of the greatest music that Puerto Rico has ever made, Spanish Harlem is crucial. You know what I mean? Like, we just have to name one guy, Eddie Palmieri. Like, without him, there is no real development of the music, you know? You got Willie Colon in the Bronx, Spanish Harlem, Eddie P, Charlie Palmieri, Eddie Palmieri. You know, like, that cipher right there between Spanish Harlem and the Bronx and Jerome Avenue and all those clubs there is crucial. And you're part of that legacy coming out of it, though. And do you ever think about this? Does it ever hit you? Yeah. Because every time I listen to music, though, you know, for me, because I have those experiences, I think about it all the time. You know what I mean? As a growing adult, you know, when I was growing into myself, not so much. I didn't even, you know, I had to learn about the neighborhood. You know, as far as the history, not just the street history of what we was going through. It's like a lot of people, even my peers or my cousins or, you know, they all look for me for information because I went and got it. Because we don't know, you know, Spanish Harlem was just 110th in Lexington. When they first came in the 50s, it was just one block. That's all they gave us. 1950, the first Puerto Ricans came, they landed, they stood on 110th in Lexington, just one block. The rest of the neighborhood was Italian. It was all Genovese. So when the white flight happened and everybody decided to move, then it became Spanish Harlem and it spread. But we fresh out of Albizu, we fresh out of the Puerto Rican flag being illegal. That's why they draped. That's why they draped everywhere so big, because at a time from like 1938 to 48, you couldn't even own a Puerto Rican flag. Very important. You know what I'm saying? And when, for us Boricuas in other boroughs, when there was a need to find, or we didn't get enough history, enough the music, enough of this, we go to Spanish Harlem. I mean, you got Geraldo Rivera, you got the Black Panther Party, you got the Young Lords. The Young Lords, right? Afeni Shakur and them had a shootout with the police on 110 and Lex, on 111 and Lex, barricaded themselves in the church, was still there. The Young Lords protected them. Felipe Luciano, Juan Gonzalez, the great journalist, sanitation strike. That's right, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Right on my block in Johnson, there's pictures now, you see the garbage littered across the street. Is we produced Tupac, you know what I'm saying? He was at certain stages of life was there. Robert De Niro, Black Rob, G. Depp, Jim Jones, Dame Dash. And in the segue here, Black Rob is the one that gave you the name Fever. So you got that fever for the mic. Yes, sir. And you kept the fever, you know what I mean? And, you know, we were saying this off air, we said some of it on air. there's a melodic nature in your work, and there are some songs that I'm gonna throw at you that I feel you're paying homage to Black Rob and the nature even before, because these records are done before his passing. You know what I mean? Just tell us how important he was to Spanish Harlem, because sometimes people see how important an MC is to the world that they get to hit in.
Right.
But you don't really understand how important they are to the neighborhood that they're representing, and how inspirational it is. Like, yo, he could do it.
Absolutely.
You know?
Well, everyone has their opinion. For me, Rob is from my building.
Mm-hmm.
So my building produced a few legends in my neighborhood, some street legends and we had Rob. They were both synonymous, parallel.
Mm-hmm.
At the time where the street legend was doing this thing, Rob was doing this thing, and they were inseparable. So now in one building, we got a dude who's doing this thing in the streets. We got my dad, who's Tone from TKA, and then we got Black Rob, all in one building. So my dad is managing Black Rob. The streets is buzzing. There's a lot of money in the projects. We outside, and Rob gets with Bad Boy. Next thing we know, I love you, baby. And yo, he's still outside.
Mm-hmm.
He's still in front of the building. It's led to some stuff that that could have probably changed his life for the better.
Right.
But for the most part, he was there.
I feel like this, right?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
I feel like this, right? When I had a show recently and I called it the Dark Ages Build Volume 3, because I'd be doing these when I get pissed off about the 2000s. Everything went commercial. A lot of great MCs didn't get the blow up.
Sucks.
The nature of it changed. You know what I mean? I spoke about Black Rob and DMX. And one of the things of disgust I talked about was I hated, as a journalist, seeing and being in these magazines, seeing how they sell it. Not how it was sold or what people bought. Looking at the way they sold the rappers, it disgusted me. You know what I'm saying? And some part of me didn't want them to blow up sometimes, because I hated the way they were selling it, because then that would be successful. In this segues to a lot of the stuff that you've spoken about, working with Fat Joe, being part of TS. You're around so many lessons. Fat Joe is a walking lesson of the industry. That's an actual fact. Seeing things that happen to Black Rob. There's so much that you see about the industry that when you rhyme about being independent, it really resonates with me much more than almost anybody else. Because when people choose to be independent, they hear the possibility of being in a label that could stop them. Industry rule number 4080. You have chronicled stories directly told to you and shown to you of industry rule number 4000. The 4000, the whole book. You know what I'm saying?
Even experiences, because I've signed bad deals,
but
I've managed to, through the grace of the Lord, man, I've just managed to always stay on balance. You know what I'm saying? I've always managed to, I learned communication and articulating yourself well is a great tool to have as you travel through this life. You know what I'm saying? Because it's gotten me out of situations which could have stagnated any other MC. I'm a self-funded MC. So I think that kind of puts me where the Lord needs me to be. This is why I'm with Joe, a Latino MC such as myself, who is another self-funded MC. My first connection was with Puff. It didn't work out. Not because of the music or nothing, but it wasn't supposed to. It just came at a time where I was depressed. Like you said, it was a dark age. And it was the Lord using Puff as a conduit, convincing me to continue to move forward the way I was. Because I was spending a lot of money on myself. So I would do what I had to do, make my money, build studio, close for videos. Build studio, close for video. Build studio, close for video. Like that every trip. I would do the most biggest thing in the world and still just have enough money for bills, clothes, money for a video. It don't matter how it worked out. It was always like that.
Right.
So I started embracing that. Instead of trying to be like, at this time with Puff Call, I wasn't embracing it. I was worried about materialistic things. this money I'm doing, you know, everybody's driving better cars than me, everybody got better bracelets than me, this person has better this than me, you know what I'm saying? And I'm doing, I could go get better. But you know what? When that phone call came, it's like, yo, bro, stay where you at. You know what I'm saying? Because when Puff called, it was just a reassurance. It was, my uncle had died the week before, the only uncle I've had that's stood tall. You know, my family's never like neglect. I'm not against it. I'm not a person who's like, yo, my family never. You know, everybody got something going on. But I had this one uncle in particular who was like part of the crew. He was, you know what I'm saying? Like, it didn't matter if he was living in PA, he was calling me, like, yo, the new stuff you just put out, you know what I'm saying? That's crazy. This, that, and the 30 was following. And he had just passed away. It was 2016, and I was just in a really dark place, twin. I just wasn't feeling like So when Puff called, and you know, he just told me how great I was. You know, honestly, he just was telling me how great I was. He didn't let me talk much. He didn't let me do it. Just kept complimenting me. And it was so, it took me back. It was kind of like frightening, you know what I'm saying? In the sense of like, because it sent me into another depression. Like, it picked me up, but I still didn't have the knowledge of self, twin. So I was still feeling entitled. I was expecting something to happen out of that. You know, I didn't. There's like a thing in the Alchemist that's saying, like, if you overlook your blessings, they can become a curse. You know what I'm saying? So I had overlooked my blessing. I didn't use it to my advantage, and it kind of cursed me and sent me into depression because I was expecting for more to happen from one scenario. I wasn't expecting to have to work harder after Puff call. I thought that, you know, the red carpet was just going to
that was it. That was the end of the story.
Because I truly believed in my heart that my uncle used his favor. You know what I'm saying? I truly believe, like, oh shit, yo, you know, when you got up there, he sat
right, and then all of a sudden it happens. It
Puff
seems,
calls, and it's like, oh, we out of here.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, and then I'm writing songs for him. I'm submitting songs. You know, I'm doing what I have to do. So when it didn't pan out, I went through the little depression, and I just ended up writing better music. So it led me to write in like more angry, I guess, more aggressive, driven music, to where it's like, you know what?
Is this when you're writing, let's say the records like Camouflage, that album?
That's exactly what it was. Twin is exactly. This is when I met Joe, Mr. Nice Guy. Those are the records that Dre from Cool and Dre heard. That was like, you know, like, yo, who is this kid? You know what I'm saying? So it came from a place of like, yo.
I mean, you know, that's a lot because, you know, again, I've interviewed Fat Joe way back. You know what I mean? There are so many people that pitched records to Joe. You know what I mean? And not just say like if I'm a journalist, if I give you someone a record, it's like he's suggesting I listen to this record. That's my job. I try to tell people what's good to listen to. It's no skin off my back. It's nothing. But people approaching Fat Joe is like, this is my life. You know what I mean? You have to listen to this record. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't like this record, it could really change my life. You know what I mean? So like that energy, you know, I would imagine that you either absorb it and really want to like it, or you're like, I can't like everything. I have to really try to find the wrong parts of the song, you know? So it definitely means a lot if someone like him, you know, and it doesn't help the cause after, after he was working with really technically, I think, the most technically gifted MC I've ever heard.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt the cause.
You know what I'm saying? Because to me, Pun is the most technically gifted MC.
But it wasn't, again, all right, so when I kept, like, to just give you a timeline, to like when I did Camouflage, I had got my now wife pregnant, and that led to Bible. And right at that time, 20 is when I gave myself to the Lord.
Okay.
That's the time where I said, I literally, I remember looking at my uncle's, you know, the little gata you get from the funeral, you know what I'm saying? So I have it on my uncle's is on my refrigerator. I remember listening to writing Bible and crying, twin, and breaking down and crying. And because I was broke, I left the streets. So I left like all my friends, I left everything alone. Like I wasn't doing nothing. So I didn't have any income. I was not trying to get a job. I was just I wasn't also trying to be a burden to my woman. So I was trying to make this happen as fast as possible.
Right.
As fast as I think I can make it happen. You know what I'm saying? So I broke down and I started crying, man. And I remember just being in my kitchen and I hit the floor and it was like a weight just lifted over me after I started crying. But while I was crying, I kept repeating, like, please just give me the opportunity. That's all I kept repeating, like, please, Lord, if you give me the opportunity to showcase what I have, I will spread the word of God in every rhyme. You know, and not a sense of like a traditional gospel way, but you will be with me in every rhyme. There will be something dedicated to you in every rhyme. If you give me the opportunity to kill these niggas, I just want to kill them. Give me one opportunity to just go out here and be the illest they ever seen. And yo, man, I wrote Bible, and then I guess that was like my offering. You know what I'm saying? Because it was kind of like that's what like the dudes who got kids be like, yo, man, that's the album. You know, Wu-Tang for the children.
During this time, unlike anyone else during this era that I've covered, you're kind of going both ways. People are hearing you work in more pop places that you don't expect to hear that in, and also in the underground. You know what I'm saying? Or well, I like to say where the best music is. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Absolutely.
it's intriguing. It's a twofold path that no one really has other than yourself. There really isn't anyone that I can think of that has that path, because if someone names you somebody in the more that's rhyming in the more commercial side, I'll tell you honestly that they're not that good. You know what I mean? I keep it real, and I don't want to name names. I'm not we're talking about UFO Feeve here. You know what I mean? But that dynamic, because those other guys that we could mention, they're not doing any of the records with the best artists that are known throughout the underground, that have dominated. Dominated. You know what I'm saying? Where people find the records, you know, essential, where people are playing, you know, hundreds for vinyl and shit. You know what I mean? And fighting each other. You know what I'm saying? For fucking vinyl on eBay. You know what I mean? And this is where we start to get into the records, and there's so many records. You know, I mentioned to you, the listeners, we talk about Camouflage, Bible, Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth, like Kill Priest said. You know what I mean? Peace to Kill Priest, always peace, brother. One of the greats in this. Those records, I can't even get. I don't even want to get into. I want to get into the recent records, because I feel like the records I'm going to talk about now, since last year, right? And ever since I've been listening to you, I was like, okay, some of my radar was like, oh, it's Boricua radar. I have Boricua radar. You know what I mean? And then I have like hardcore radar. He's on this song, he's on that song. You know, he's all over Terminology Records. So he's being pitched to somebody that's good, right? And by the way, as a side note, I like the way Terminology raps today better than when he rapped in the 2000s.
Absolutely. Peace to Term, man.
Is it?
Real quick, Term, if you hear this, man, forgive me, because they just debuted a billboard on Times Square, and he asked me to pull up him and premiere. So if you get to hear this, Term, I'm taking the time out the interview to apologize to you. I had to be here and do what we did, but much love.
Oh, that's peace. That's peace. No, but I'm just saying that because
But I agree with you, brother. Like,
there's a different mastery in it.
Even since we did the last song, Don Julio,
right?
He's leveled up.
2000s. Listen, if we just break it up sloppily, because it's sloppy. He was more of an athlete. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, he's Blake Griffin in the mic. You know, in the booth. You know, rhyming fast.
Like everybody knows he's there.
Right. But now, like, there's a lot of cadence. There's a lot of detail. There's a lot of stylistics. You know, his stylistics is in there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that's what got me to notice you, because you have a lot of stylistics. And that's what lets people not notice that you're actually saying some crazy shit. And I thought that one of your prime runs, when people look at your career, is going to be 2020.
Yes.
Because while we're holed up in this pandemic, you released 3 powerful records that I think if the pandemic wasn't happening, you would have been able to market them and shop them more And people are like, wait a minute, Static did a whole record with him. Wait, Term decided to do beats for him, and that's unique. There's nobody else has an album of Term beats.
So I'm the only artist who got an album with Static and Term.
Well, we could add their Big Ghost because nobody has those three either. That unique combo. Yeah. And for Big Ghost, normally he gives people just like the soul biscuits, you know, loop soul, a good loop soul crate. Now you got some blues in here and all types of stuff. So we're gonna talk about that. This is what I wanted to focus on,
right?
And really give some detail. My producer, do you want to take a break? We come back for a little bit more. We can keep going. All right, we're gonna keep going.
On good frequencies right now.
That's good. Right. Let's start with Fresh Air. You know what I'm saying? There was something. The records that I'm going in order, I like more and more. So every next record I think is better than the one I'm talking about. Fresh Air, we start with Static Selector, right?
Yes, sir.
Again here, Static Selector, I noticed some different things. And this is what bugs me out. Static Selector, usually his own producer albums, all that, he gives everybody straight breaks, things like that. And sometimes I have hundreds and hundreds of albums. I go through everything. That's why I can give you a book that talks about everything and not just my 5 favorite shits. I was hearing different things here. You know what I'm saying? And one thing I noticed that Static and Term does too, and maybe because it's Term's first time and he's lived with Static forever.
Yes.
They have something that they can do with you that makes it easier for them. Yeah. You find the pocket in anything. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because I noticed they advertise the Term record, especially as like a find the pocket record. I'm like, I mean, that's cheating. Yeah. That's cheating because that's kind of like, that's like saying, Ricky Henderson, he'll find the bass. You know what I mean? Like, you find the pocket, I noticed, really well when the break is not there. Right. So a Static Selector who loves to drop the beat, he loves doing that. He did that a lot on the record. You know what I mean? He had you start off with, and then there's one song, I forgot which one it was. Let me see, I have it here. I think it was Not Today, where he does it consistently. He does it like, usually you do it in the beginning of the song, but he was like, nah, for the second verse, we'll start a cappella too on the group and I'm thinking because the history of your father, seeing all this music being done, understanding music, you know how to find the groove in the bass lines and that thing, something that like resurrected really what Brownsville Cop became, you know what I'm saying? What he was hearing in his head and describing to me, and what Rock Marcy and what Alk does, because Alk finds such great crates. Right. You do that all the time. You know what I'm saying? So like you're a perfect MC for like the dropouts, throw away the break, acapella, all that stuff. And that's why I was saying that there's a melody in your acapella. Yes, sir. Because I hear a certain groove in your acapella. What are you listening to when you hear the music then? Like if the music has everything, what are you hearing in the beat that says, I'm going to use this? I got that. Let's do that.
It's what I hear. That's a great question, Swin. What I mostly hear is kind of like if I had to describe it and put it in something tangible, in a form that's tangible for you to understand, it would kind of be like a ultrasound wave or like a heartbeat wave. Like depending on where the whoop is landing, that's where I'm gonna jump. You know what I'm saying?
You know what that reminds me of? When RZA talks about the pulse of the music.
So pretty much that's what it is. For me, you know how Kanye says he sees it in colors. I see it in, like, if you close your eyes, it's in the pulse. It's in a way like. So if Static throws something on, for example, for Not Today, when Static throws this stuff on, I'm working on it as he's working on the beat. Because Static won't let me take nothing home. So
that was another question I had for you. So you have to work on these songs
in real time.
In one time? Or do you get to
one time? So
you don't get to like say, okay, we'll finish Golden Soul tomorrow.
Unless he didn't like something. Okay. If he was like, yo, that's okay.
I mean, wait, because part of the major part, and I say this all the time about music journalism, is the appreciation for the excellence of the record. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you don't know how dope a player is. You know what I'm saying? Right. You hear a record, you know, Coltrane did that one take. It was
Right.
30 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Or, you know, Ray Barretto plays
Right.
the whole song like that. You know, his
Right.
hands is that fat. You know what I
Right.
mean? You did some songs here that are not just, okay, let me just throw some bars. These are real song structures. So you don't get to go home with this shit. So, but you write a whole song. I'm not talking about a song, you know, bars. A song like Bad Luck, an entire story. How does that come up though? Don't you feel the pressure of like, I want to go eat. I want to go chill. I'm tired.
You know, so that's what's my problem. It's when I'm not a studio guy. So I'm in there for like, you know, Static and them have this running joke where I'm great at Irish goodbyes. Like, cause the next thing you know, I'm not there. So it's like fit into my name. Like,
like the Irish exit? When they say the Irish exit, yeah.
Goodbyes. Like everybody will be laughing and then turn around and I'm not there. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
like,
right.
I just said a joke, everybody's laughing and I'm gone. It's just, I guess it fits to who my personality. When I transitioned into UFO, I just, you know, I'm in the studio. How me and Static work was, Static is a night hawk, a night owl. Like they in the lab all night into the morning sunrise. I can't do that for many reasons. One being I got anxiety. I can't be nowhere too long. You know what I'm saying? So I show up as soon as Static shows up. Nobody's there. It's just Static. You know what I'm saying? So I'll clean up the studio, you know, because I get that from my grandmother, you know. So I clean, they clear my mind. You know,
Take out the clutter of the
when
area.
I first did it, Static was like, "Yo, what you doing?" I'm like, "Nah, this ain't got nothing to do with you. Just chill. I got you."
Una limpieza, right?
Vacuum the whole thing. I clean. You know, I wipe everything down. I got the incense. I'm chilling. I'm rolling up. I'm doing my thing while he's working. So he's pulling up the loops and stuff. So while I'm hearing, I'm like, "Yeah, Stat." He's like, and that'll keep him working on that one. You know what I'm saying? So once I say yeah, Stat, I'm already like hearing where I gotta go. You know what I'm saying? So like for Not Today, Terminology wrote that hook. You know, so when I got to the studio, Static had FaceTime Term, and Term was like, "Yo, let him hear the joint that I wrote." So when he played it, I was like, "Oh yeah, I got you," because I already was like, I'm always in that zone of like, yeah, a song like that is like, we can do that. You know what I'm saying? So when for Not Today, it was one of them things where like I just gotta express myself and vent for the whatever little insecurities I'm having or frustrations, just vent them in this song. So this allows me to take me back to the frustrations I've had years ago. You know what I'm saying? But that's what fits this song. Like just vent and any frustration. So you might hear me talk about all types of stuff.
So how long do these songs take for you to write them? Now that you
for Fresh Air
get
Twin,
over like the idea that I'm stuck in this
every
thing.
experience is different. For Fresh Air Twin, everything's off the top. There's no loose leaf, no.
So wait, a song like Bad Luck, the entire story.
Yes, off the top.
You're like, let me just tell a story about how life sucks.
Static. We were in the night studio one night, and I was just complimenting Q-Tip. You know, Static was DJing, because Static DJs just like, he might just start DJing. Okay. So he was just scratching up one night, and I was like, damn, Q-Tip, you know, I was just digging up, and Static gave me some history about how he came in the game under Q-Tip. So this was something I had no idea. There's a lot about Static I still don't know, you know what I'm saying? So he was telling me this and how he came up and the stuff he did early on and some of the production he was there for, you know what I'm saying? The stuff he's seen. And while he's telling me this, Twin, I'm like, I'm kind of in awe, like,
wow, that's amazing.
Like, yeah, like Static is.
You know, as a side note, salute the Queen's tutelage musically.
Exactly.
Because where would music be without Lars Professor, Beatnuts, Q-Tip, teaching all these other people?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So I'm getting, so all right, so I say that as Static is saying that, we may be like 3 or 4 songs in the Fresh Air, maybe 3. And I tell him like, yo, I got it now. Like it kind of, I like you telling me that, and then me, like Fresh Air is my Midnight Marauders.
8 Million Stories, Bad Luck. I got it.
You know what I'm saying? So every song on Fresh Air coincides with Midnight Marauders.
That's
The only thing we didn't do was put the voice, but we put Harley, you know what I'm saying? Saying fresh air. So it was like, because as I'm jogging and I'm working out, I'm listening to Midnight Marauders. So when I would go to Static,
so it's kind of like vicariously, like in the back of your head, you get ideas.
So one night Static is playing the beat, and I'm like, yo, Static, what beat is that? He's like, oh, I made this yesterday when my brother came to visit. I'm like, oh, I got something for that. He's like, all right, I'm gonna load it up. And I'm like, last week my girl was stressing me. Just last week my girl was stressing me. Now I'm like, all right, I got it. So give me a minute. So I'm rolling up, and I'm like, just putting the story together. You know, I'm taking everything Fife said, and I'm just paraphrasing it and putting it into myself. So when he says he had tickets for the Knicks versus Rockets, you know what I'm saying? I had tickets for
Starks was ejected.
I had tickets. He says he had tickets for the Knicks versus Sun, and Shorty couldn't go because I say I had tickets for the Knicks versus Rockets. I call her Catalina Colombiana with ass like Trina. She telling me she can't come from the last time I never seen her. Plus the son is home and she can't leave him. I feel depleted. Wish I was weeded. Right then, the Jordan, a Celtics fan ran by and scuffed my Jordan 4. The Celtics fan is Static. Right then, the Celtics fan.
Right, because he's Boston.
Right then, so I'm in the booth. I'm like, right then, a Celtics fan ran by and scuffed my Jordan 4, had me super heated. I had the 4s on, so you know this is all
hilarious.
Like, so, but it's all coming from Fife. You know what I'm saying? Twin is all like matching what.
Right.
So as I start the second verse, I took 5. I said, just last week, my girl was stressing me. Now her best friend is undressing me. I thought we could make love under the moonlight. Now I'm tricking on her just to keep her mood right. And that's how Fife starts 8 Million Stories, the second verse.
You know what works too in the Midnight Marauders, because Q-Tip is such a his verses teach so much though without being didactic. It helps when his voice is perfect.
Nah, he's nice.
The most unique voice, one of the most unique voices, up there with Sadat or anybody else. But you have also a gift, and I'm just making note. I'm not going to quote bars on this one.
Right.
We'll probably later. You have a real gift, and I'm highlighting it here, for what I call is rhyming the aphorism. An aphorism is a saying of understanding written beautifully. So the Tao Te Ching, the Dhammapada, you have this way, a real gift for giving insights, but saying them in the most beautiful way, and then saying them at moments that you don't expect them. Golden Soul, you start off the song with those bars. Usually people have to work their way into the jewel, and you lead off with the jewel, and then it becomes a detail of the jewel. Right. You really flip a lot of order on a lot of stuff, and it makes the lyricism something that people don't really notice, the order that you use. Right. You know what I'm saying? I'm just making note of that.
No, that's what Term, we had to talk about that one time, because he was like, yo, how do you manage to like carry the rhyme for so long? Like every one of your bars got to do with each other for so long, like as to where a rapper won't. It's 3 or 4
because if
bars
you're
and
doing this record is a stream of conscious record, and yet you're clinging for a long time. That's why I was saying, you didn't take this home. You didn't.
Nah, that's what Term said. He said, yo, Fee, you know what makes you nice, bro, is you able to carry this the topic for so long, different flows, and you'll say something like son, and you think you're gonna stop, and it's continuation to that same like the bar before that. He was like, so I don't know. I guess it's like I said, a lot of book reports, and thesis driven. You know what I'm saying? It's able to be the beginning, the middle, the end. You know what I'm saying? Like we get you through the beginning. We're gonna get you through the middle.
And Fresh Air is really a fun record. The more you listen to it, my favorite part is really those songs like 7, 8, 9. It's the groove. I just enjoy listening to you in and out of all the pockets.
Yes, sir.
But one of the most fun things on the record, I just have to make note, because Nems is,
yes, sir.
He doesn't get enough credit. He doesn't let himself be interviewed. All right. The way that you did Slow Dancing and then had like a reverse Redman to Nice and Nice, but like you did the whole song and then Nems just insults that a lot of the whole reality. Yeah. I think it's just crazy, because when people, you know, the synergy that you have with Nems and also with Term is really dope. That's why let me get the name of it, because one of my favorite songs, you guys made a video of it.
No Celebs.
No Celebs. Yeah, right. I'm forgetting the producer album that was on.
Dom Dirty.
Dom Dirty, right? And
peace to Dom.
that was such a great back and forth song. It's one of the, you don't get too many where like more than two MCs go back and forth. And it just was.
No, we had so much fun with that because I didn't want to be on it. When they in the studio going back and forth, so they start the song and then turn, and they're like, "Come on, Fee." But I'm in the studio we work in, so there's like the recordings part, and then there's like the lounge, but the door opens, so you could, we all together.
Okay.
So I'm in the lounge. I smoke in the lounge. I'm just smoking up, chilling. They're like, "Come on, Fee, jump on this." Men's.
Well, how come you didn't want to? Because you thought they had the great synergy already, or?
That, a little bit of that, and to be honest, I just was like, nah, I don't want to do that. Like, I just was like, nah, it's just like, I didn't have a reason. I just was like, nah, I don't want to do that. So I ain't trying to, like, you know what I'm saying? So they like, them start talking, he's talking, talking to me like, I'm like, yo, bro, I could get on that with no problem. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, bro. So he like, do it right now. I'm like, yo, bro, you serious? He's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, say no more. I got you. Just to show him more.
Right.
Don was recording us. Static had just left to get some of these new term names and all that. We talking crap to each other. I'm like, yo, bro, I don't even got it. Because he's like, right. It's in the term of writing. So I'm like, yo, bro, I don't even have to write for this, bro. Like,
some songs you write for, some songs you don't.
I'm like, yo, I don't have to write. Because Nems is, but we brothers, so it's not serious. But I'm like, yo, bro, I don't gotta even write to this to get him with you. It's like, it's not that serious. He's like, So I'm like, yo, y'all did your part. Pull up my part right now. Pull up the next part. So I go in there, then I do the first off the top. So Nems is like, this nigga, you want it now. You want it now, though. So we start going and, we going at each other on the song. You know what I'm saying? We going following each other. And we had just had fun. It was kind of like like if you you're with your cousins, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's such. Besides it being like a whole Boricua song, which is very rare,
and we didn't even know. You know
right?
what I'm saying?
It's just very natural. But the three of you have such great inflection that it makes the whole record real stylistic. You know what I'm saying? It just.
It's just three different
flavors.
Sounds like
it sounds
good. Icy,
it sounds good the whole way. It's one of my favorite songs that I heard recently. Especially, I was so happy that y'all made a video for that because it was so funny. And then Nem's calling you Pony Danza. It's just funny.
That's why he's talking. That's what I'm saying. Like we always, I love him. Yeah. Shout out to Nems, man. We always like try to push. He busts my chops because he knows I think I'm as good as I think I am, and I admire him as an MC, so we always like. Right. I'm always pushing him like, yo, bro. I'll be like, yo, it takes you an hour to write. You know what I'm saying?
I see a lot of like ideas between you and Nems because Nems is so hardcore, known as a battle rapper and stuff. People don't notice how deep his rhymes are,
yes, sir.
Or how introspective they are also. You know what I'm saying? And how inspirational they are because that last record he did, The Monsoon, that whole album is just. Incredible, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I just love that record. But getting on, we got that record. You don't get Fresh Air now. I don't know what the hell's wrong with you. But then you did From El Barrio with Love, right?
Right.
And I saw this record more as like thematically more of a street declaration album.
Right.
You're really talking about the streets a lot. Like this is what it was. You know what I mean? I was a drug dealer. This is what I was doing. This is what it is.
Right.
And my man Babito Ross of The Leftovers, right? He did that cover. You know what I mean? Definitely. Off air, I let UFO know what we are The Leftovers and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
But again, I felt like Term. He gave you a lot of pocket grooves, a lot of funk.
Yes, sir.
A lot of groovy funk. Diamantes, Villains, Hypnotic, they're all the same type of song, that groove. So his crates are real nice.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
and then he gave you that, when he gives you the drums, it's really like a thump, like The Bad Guy, which is really great. You know what I mean? One thing I didn't know about is that you often rhyme in that slower tempo.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Is that because you're asking or people love you in that tempo?
They love me in that tempo.
Because the only song I saw was a little bit faster was Only a Dream.
Right.
And you rhymed that a little bit faster.
Right.
And I was like, wow.
50i.
Yeah, it's a little bit, It's yeah,
bouncy on
yeah.
the road, a slick Rick.
Yeah, and I like you on faster tempos
yeah,
too.
I do too.
I
Yeah, Petey Crack's one of my favorite MCs, so I always like that.
Oh, definitely a fast tempo,
So,
expert, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, man, but I don't know. They just love. I think the baritone in my voice shines better on the slow flow, the natural voice that people kind of like, the gruff, you allow to hear that pain, as opposed to when I'm putting the tempo on a little more. So I think for Term, what he wanted to capture with those beats was, I guess, what he liked from me as an MC.
And I would think, like, you know, you and Term, I feel like this album was made around a lot of conversations about MCing.
Yeah, for sure. And what's ill is that, like, it always came back with Term with the beats. Like, it wouldn't be like, yo, Term, throw me something. It always like, we'll chill, and then, you know, he'll come back next week, he'll be like, yo, I got an air batch for you, you know what I'm saying? And I'll be like, all right, be here. And he'll play, you know, and it wasn't like 40 beats, he would play 3 to 4 joints, like, yo, this is what I had in mind, which one of these, you know what I'm saying, you like, you know what I'm saying? So it was kind of that. And he just had a vision for it the whole time. I even say it on one of the songs on Only a Dream. I said, I tell Term we need the drums. My ancestors trying to remind you know what I'm saying? How far I've come. So it's like we would have those conversations where I'm like, yo, I'm not doing the whole drum in this album, Term. You know what I'm saying? Like, he'd be like, yo, bro, trust me, you sound amazing. You know what I'm saying? So I'll be like, yo, we got to throw. That's where 850 comes and Drug Dealer, you know, those kind of songs. So I was like, yo, we got to do some like
right.
Too, you know what I'm saying?
And you know, when you talk about the pain, that was the first lines of the album. The Diamantes, peak game from an MC with a brain that prefers his rappers broke because that's when you hear the pain.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You know, you've learned and you learn so much from Fat Joe and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And he actually debunks that, or he's an anomaly, one or the other, right? Because again, I talked about it off air. That rhyming he did on the DITC album, though, I mean, that shit, you know. Look, I have reviewed.
See, that's the thing. Joe will tell you, like, the reason. All right, so I'm gonna stand up for him one time. This is the only time I'm gonna really just address this. Like, we gotta understand that, like, Joe, the Joe we have now that creates the music he creates now. Like, after Me, Myself, and I, he no longer recorded in New York. All his music has been recorded down south, around Khaled, Cool and Dre, around these people, not necessarily around Buck Wild, around the DITC crew. So me getting around Joe, I kind of learned to experience this. All right, so when Joe comes to New York, we doing the Jim Jones feature, we doing the Chic feature, we doing the Havoc feature. When Joe's in Miami, he's doing songs like Sunshine. He's doing songs like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like me being next to him and a fan. I learned the dichotomy of who he is. When he's recording here, the frequency and the vibe he's on, you're going to get that. I caught his mother at the face to face. Now she laying in St. Raymond's in Section 8. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to get that, but you're not going to be able to get that from. And it's kind of like this. Being an artist, I understand, because if I was to go to Hawaii for a month and record an album, it's probably not going to sound like.
You know, and the listeners know I've always been brutal about Miami as far as all music.
Yeah, I don't go out there to record.
I've always called it the place where Latin music dies.
Yeah. Unless you want to capture a certain vibe. If you want to capture a certain vibe that you're looking for that is very successful, then Miami is the place to be. Because that breeds the glory of Stefan. Like you said, the music died, but it also birthed a different vibe.
Right.
You know
it definitely becomes pop.
Exactly.
And it's new pop levels. Right.
So,
you know what's interesting? Probably in history, one of the greatest records was written there, but not recorded there, from what I know, was Cuban Links. Because Rain Ghost spent a lot of time in Miami, though. But that, you know, these numbers. And my big bro, Thurston Howe. Thurston Howe, he makes music out in Miami, and it still comes out rugged. So he's ruining my thesis here.
But Thurston is New York, though. For some reason, he's like quintessential New York.
Yeah, you can't rub it off.
And I say that the same thing for Joe. You know,
and that's why I bring up that DITC album from. I think it was 2016.
Yes, sir.
Because it's such a stellar record. He was incredible with it. It sounded incredible. But back to you, right? Then you do the Big Ghost album, right?
Right.
And Abizu, right? Abizu Campos is a revolutionary that to say that he is dear to our hearts is an understatement of the century. You know what I'm saying? Like the first time I ever heard about Abizu Campos, brothers was talking about it and they were crying, shedding tears about him being radiated and things like that.
Shout out to the brother Detroit. Right? He put me on, man.
Oh, that's peace. That's peace. And it's something that radicalizes you when you learn about him, you learn about what Puerto Rico is, the independence, and for you to take the daring to name that, to have the album, continue to have the album, even though the tweet suggested it, it takes a lot to say, listen, we're going to name this after Albizu, you know what I mean? And honor that legacy like that, you know what I mean? I thought it was beautiful. And some of the great lyrics are in here, you know what I'm saying? I wrote this on the first cut, Don Pedro, the Coca Blessings, right? A lot of people miss what you're saying because the prose are literally written. Your poetry is written like straight prose. So you don't notice that they're being seasoned. You know what I mean? Forgiveness, it's never permission, homie, past that. This 40 got him sweating like he on his last lap. With a tiger on his back, my name written in caps on the side of my building, jacket covered in facts. Roses on the veins, a junkie with bad scratch. Oh, come on. You know what I mean? Thought he was a plane till he hit a bad pass. There's so much metaphor. There's so much metaphor in there. It could lose the listener and be like, oh, this sounds nice.
You gotta know about you gotta have the uncle that had the rose on his vein.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You gotta know those kind of people to understand, but it's great that guys like you have that understanding and still allow me to express it even if you don't, because a rose on your vein, that's old school heroin stuff, man. Mm-hmm. If you've seen anybody with a rose right on that vein, that means they shot dope. Heavy. You know what I'm saying? Thought he was a plane till he hit a bad batch. My mother had a boyfriend then, and we lost him to a bad batch way before fentanyl even came in and just was freezing up. And
just great stuff. You know what I mean? And Ghost, like I said, he usually gives soul biscuits. They're usually great finds. They don't have to be chopped too much because he's a great crate digger. Now he gave you some real details here. You know what I'm saying? The layering on Got a Feeling. Feeling I'm being penalized, not sanctified. It sent these niggas a sweeter platform, make them magnified, balancing tradition with rhythm. Wow. Yeah. Let's get this clarified. I've been through the stage of emotions and you look terrified. My problem's never been in the physical, but of the mind. You know what I mean? I mean, these are journeys. These are journeys in there. You know what I'm saying? When you rewind them and you enjoy them with the music that Ghost is giving, it's just, Ghost really went out there for you with this one. With the music he was giving you and the stuff that you were throwing in there,
Yeah, man, he wasn't even, be honest, when I took him for a ride, he didn't expect it. He did not expect it, man. And I don't think he doubted me because he was riding for me, but again, I don't think people understand what they get themselves into when we do it. So when he sent the beats through, he sent them exactly how they was. 20, I wrote them in like 2 days.
There's a lot of boom bap today that's great musically, and it could be classified as quality retro. It recreates the great era. Big Ghost, a lot of his works are like that. If I had to give the best stuff of Big Ghost, this album would be one of them because of the differences and the progression that he takes it to, and the cleverness. Spit out of the cracks grew me, and you could still smell the fumes of my tea. You thought a rose grew. You know what I mean? I even caught there's even like, cause Crack, Joey Crack, the rose grew from the concrete, Tupac. I mean, there's so much clever layering and wordplay in this. I'm just trying to it's such a fun record, listening to UFO Feed.
Rose grows, Benny King, Spanish Harlem.
Right, that's right. I didn't even think of that. Yeah. The classic Spanish Harlem song. Yeah.
You can still smell the fumes on my tea out the crack. So it's like you can still smell the crack fumes on my tea.
Right.
He thought a rose grew. You know what I'm saying? But it was really
right. So the entendres is just bananas. There's like 10 entendres in the shit. You know what I mean? And then I want to talk about Danger because Danger feels like a homage to not just Blase, it has that vibe, but also Black Rob because he's a master at that inflection peak. The chorus where your rhyme bar is
Right,
the
so
is.
like you say that, Twin, I'm gonna give all praise due. Before we, we keep moving forward to Black Rob and DMX, because they inspired 2 songs on this, which is Danger, and the song DMX inspired was Promises. So I can allude to the DMX influence by saying I specifically told Ghost I'm gonna write like I'm at. When we would I was like, yo, bro, I got a flow and it's a DMX flow. I just gotta perfect. If I can get it, it's gonna be
Broken
crazy.
Promises, right?
Because so it goes, never promise to be a man. Only promise to the hand to keep to hold your heart when it's dark, when it's cold. I promise it'll get cold. And the fall, and the fall.
And you know what's interesting is that the whole song sounds like a chorus, an extended chorus.
So it all comes from that either let me fly or give me death. Let my soul rest or take my breath. If I don't fly, I'ma die anyway. If I don't grow old, I'll be cold and dead. That's the deal. So it was like,
what do you do to get the influence in there, but not be like a straight bite? Because sometimes some of these songs you wouldn't really catch it though.
Yeah, it just comes like you said, it's trying to like picture where they were when you wrote that. You know what I'm saying? And recreate that same delivery, not the flow, but the delivery, the way that they like the way they was sweating in the booth. I want to be sweating that same exact way. I want to be rhyming it the same exact way. I don't want to sound or bite from them, but I promise to be a man. I promise to be the best. I promise to protect and understand. I promise to never fold. I promise to still hold you down when it's dark and keep you warm when it's cold. Like
when I heard this song, I wrote here one of the many overt, outright soul songs. You do a lot of soul songs.
Yes,
some of your songs are straight soul songs, and this was one of them. You know what I'm saying? It was a straight. I didn't see the DMX. I just heard like it sounds like a soul song.
I told you about Fife and Dreams. It was the same thing. It was like
very dope.
This deserves like a homage to like this is because I always imagine like if I had to meet these artists, right, and I got an opportunity to get them on a record, I always have to have a record ready. You know what I'm saying? So I'm always writing with that in mind too.
And the lines on Danger look all these rappers out shopping trying to find my cloth. Can't be cut like me, your fabric way too soft. You should have been a bedsheet when you lie to the feds. The only thing I ever hear was some untaxed spends.
The way you should have been a bed sheet. The way you lied to the fans. The only thing I ever hear was some untaxed spends.
Right? Okay, yeah. Dope, fucking dope.
That's the only thing we ever heard was some untaxed
fucking
spends.
Dope. You know what I mean? And then Today's Math, conscious songs without the preachy stuff.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? Ducking the law, birthing styles. Y'all thought I was out here fucking raw. You know what I mean? That's a bar right there.
The way I'm birthing styles.
You know what I mean? The way you birthing styles, fucking raw. Like wordplay. You know what I'm saying? Wordplay. And when I'm in blues song, Trinidad versus Camacho, that's a blues riff. That's really a blues song. It's really a blues song. It's some of the lines there. Born to bowl, where I score, makes the highlights, sidelines, players, commentating on all my life. And one, laid the baddest women outside. Just cleverness throughout the bars. You know what I mean? Box Cutter, another great back and forth with Nems. You know what I mean? There's so much on this record. You know what I'm saying? But
demigods with the homies.
Right. There's so much on this record, but I want to end with just making note that I still think the best record that I would give to somebody immediately is still your latest record that I've heard, The Thrill. You know, and part of the reason,
thank you, Twin. That's big.
Part of the reason for that is because the lines are incredible. You again starting verses that seem to be in flow, in the middle of something. You know what I mean? As applause fills the venue, she overlooks the menu. Not a care to even gaze what happened on stage. Hit the stall and stiff half her age. I mean, we're taken to the middle of a story. You know what I'm saying? It's
like it starts.
Yeah, like it starts right, like boom. The Thrill, Fever Business. You know what I mean? One thing I love about the Fever Business, besides that great rumbling break, the bass line, is because the Butch he gave me some stuff. the industry insights from you are something I listen to a little bit more than other people. Because I told you, you have this double vantage point that no one has. You know what I'm saying?
I'd rather just on Spotify look
yeah. I quoted so many bars from this, though. We don't have the time to get into all of this. You know what I mean? But this whole idea, the way you metaphorize, though, their desires is like the rappers that want to get on the labels, all the money that you got to invest. They want a white man to take them to the prom. They go produce a bomb. They get nervous when his hands up your dress. I don't know. If you guys don't fuck with that, I don't know what's wrong with you. You got the wrong show. You know what I mean? Balance, another great song about ethics, the way you make records, the groove again, rhyming in the groove. But the real stellar song that really blew me away, since I have to fast forward here a little bit, right? You even introed it with inner space and then outer space. It blew me away. The song is so beautiful. And by the way, as a note, I have 2 daughters, though. I have one that's going to be 20 and I have one that's going to be 8. Mm-hmm. Every line that you have about little girls, though, I love it. I love the songs you write about your kids. It's beautiful. But the things you said here, channel energy for positive thoughts, and I black out until the walls get reinforced inside the glass house. There's so much in there to think about. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? There's so much in there. Like, you've got your own shit. So you've got to fortify, you don't throw stones. You've got your own shit that could be criticized, Right. And this homage to Doom, I saw the wordplay for Doom. My knuckles hitting your smile, knocking your caps out, like the all caps joint. Rest in peace, Doom. We broke the mask out. Mascots thinks it's a game until I back out. Wow, I love Doom. My producer loves Doom. We miss Doom like crazy.
Yeah, I know when I wrote that.
That's crazy. There's so much layering here, but the layering is what the listener needs to hear too, right? Let the rhythm, movement breathe, give a banger up the sleeve, watch the money start growing off of trees. I can't give it justice the way I'm saying it, though, but it's the way that you're saying it. It's all layered there. You're rhyming in perfect syllable matchup, synergy, everything is in there. And then you end the song in an incredible bars here. I've obtained knowledge of self, true wealth, stuck on the moon, praying that somebody will help. My baby girls hold my heart as it melts. I love that line. It's beautiful. My ancestors have felt the drums that heal my spiritual health. 30 shots at the devil himself. My halo came with a Jubilee bracelet. You know what I mean? You testing God's favorites. You don't mingle with the help. Elevate yourself, and if you keep doing you, then you made it. The way you have a way of ending something with an inspirational insight, and it never sounds fucking corny, is very difficult, nearly impossible. This is stellar work. Frank the Butcher, this is great stuff. The details in the song, the EQ levels, the bass lines, that was really what I loved about Frank the Butcher's work here. But this is great. This is great work, and it's so short that I look forward to what you have with Vanderslice, the Enigma of Dali, the other works you have. As we close out the show, I just want to say, if you didn't get an appreciation for UFO Feeve as an MC, as a lyricist, as someone that knows tempo, that glides on the track, that becomes an instrument in the musical selection you're hearing, I don't know what the fuck you were listening to. You know what I'm saying? Right? Rewind, you know what I mean? But a real great,
thank you, bro.
A great works you have. It's great pride for me to hear a brother of your stature doing it, though, fighting the industry, because any fight against the industry is one that I'm here to watch and chronicle. You know what I mean? And just make great music. You know what I'm saying? And it's just a real blessing to have you here. And a lot of guys that have done the things you have would have had 50 managers by now, and I wouldn't have been able to contact you straight up. You know what I'm saying? And that means a lot to me, and I put it out there as, you know what I mean, as a man of the people, and as an MC's MC. It's just great work, though. I salute you. You know what I mean? I salute you, UFO Feeve. Go to UFO Feeve, UFOFEV, bandcamp.com. Get all the records I talked about. Go back to the Camouflage, the Bible Works, the Emigres. We didn't even talk about that. That was a dope one, too. You know, there's just so much to talk about here. A self-made, self-funded career that we could all look up to and really do the knowledge to. You know what I mean? And That's why I call this the invisible renaissance. There's so much in it that you gotta take the veil off to see. You know what I mean? So with that said, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show, UFO Feeve. Until the next time, there'll be a lot more stories to tell, writings to recite, and records to rewind and reminisce. I'm your host, Junior Zala, aka Skillustrator, and for my guest, UFO Feeve, I want to say peace. And as always, the Power Right Show is a never respect fake broadcast. Peace.
Right.
All right.
Great job.
Oh man, thank you. Thank you, brother.
That's a good interview.
That was love right there. I've never
That was a good
been,
interview.
having a great, that conversation. I very appreciated.
Indeed. You know, my producer, this is what I do. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, you also.
I said at the beginning and stuff like that.
Very
Like
great.
you're an MC, you're trying to be the best. I intend to do this and be the best. Everything you did, everybody you interviewed, I listened to it. I heard it. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, you
And,
killed it, bro. You very.
and that